How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Task Force Off-Road. Today, we're going to be installing some GENRIGHT fender flares, and it's not on that Jeep, and it's not on the Gladiator. It's actually going to be on this Jeep, which you've seen once before. So, let's get started. Alright guys, so we're going to start here on the driver's side rear. Now what you're going to do, to get this off, all you really need to do is separate the inner fender from the body of the Jeep itself. And you're just going to need some push tabs. There are 8 push tabs that hold the inner fender liner to the body of the Jeep. Once we get those out, we can just rip the fender off. It's going to be real easy. Alright, once you get all those clips out, grab where you can grab and then yank. There you go, easy day. Now if you have any of these treat clips that broke, just go ahead and push those back through and get them out. Now to remove this little part here, it's going to be 3 8mm bolts. 2 of them are easy to see, and the other one is in the top left corner. Or on the passenger side, the top right corner. Now my suggestion is, since we're about to bolt something up to this area, is clean it up. So get some glass cleaner, a rag. You don't have to go too crazy with it, like microfiber cloth to prevent scratching. No one's ever going to see this, but clean it up while you have it off. So now, while you're doing this on the rear, you're going to notice a little bit of surface rust in some weird spots where paint probably rubbed off from your stock fenders. That's because this part of the body is steel. Magnet, it's steel. So make sure when you're drilling out these holes to fit the rivet nuts in that you paint around the holes and even use a little bit of RTV. That way you seal it up real nice. So right now I'm taping off this area. That way I can hold up the fender to the Jeep, not worry about scratching any paint. And then I can use a punch and punch through the holes that are marked off that I have to drill out and make bigger. So that way, when I take the fender off, the only holes in the tape are ones that need to be drilled out. It should also be noted that there is one hole that has to be completely drilled out. So get a center punch or a normal punch and punch the hole. That way you know where you have to drill. Alright, so with a helper, have your helper bring the fender up and hold this to the Jeep. Now these are side specific. The longer end goes toward the front, the shorter end goes toward the back. Alright, now when you're poking the holes, we're going to need that back in a second. When you're poking the holes, it doesn't have to be an exact science. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put a bolt through here, make sure which hole we have to drill out is the correct hole. So I'm going to poke some bolts through the holes, that way we can get everything as lined up as possible before I set and make the center punch. Right back over here. We're going to line up. Alright, you can go ahead and let go. The hole that you have to drill out is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and punch this, and then we're going to get started. Okay, now I have it marked at least with a little bit of scratch away paint. I can take the fender off, give it a good center punch, and then I can go to drilling. And the reason we're punching is that way so our drill doesn't walk. So, even though only one hole doesn't exist, they all need to be drilled out. Okay, so GENRIGHT suggests using a step bit and drilling them out to 7/16. Who knows, by the time you guys get these fenders, maybe they're sending out different size rivet nuts. So definitely practice on like a box or something and get it to where it fits in the box, and then mark it with tape. That way it's clearly visible that you can see not to drill any further. That's the best suggestion I have when using step bits for nut certs. Okay, now that that's done, we can go ahead and remove the tape, and we can start using touch-up paint to paint over all the exposed metal. Paper towel. All right, so to put riv nuts in, you have two options. You can use this, an Astro 1442, which is a riv nut tool, and to be honest, it's kind of difficult to use. I find the tool that they supply much easier to make sure you have a good crush, because you want to make sure your crush is perpendicular, otherwise you're going to have a hard time fighting the holes in. We already did the passenger side, so I kind of chewed through the GENRIGHT tool, and my friend, whose Jeep this is, she lost part of the hardware pack. So we're balling on a budget with the hardware we have, so therefore all the riv nuts on the front won't get installed, but it's gonna be plenty safe. And she's gonna get the new hardware pack, which should have a second installation tool and more riv nuts and bolts as well. But we have enough to get all the fenders on, so we're gonna do it. So that being said, this is something similar to what GENRIGHT will send you. It's a bolt with some washers and then a nut. And essentially you hold the nut and then you torque down this, and that will crush the serrated part of the sleeve together in between the body of the Jeep, and then you'll have a little bit of riveted nut. It's a pretty cool thing. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to use the first time. I have done these before on my Jeep when I did my fenders, so I have a little bit of practice with them. And when she showed up and this is how it was installed, I wasn't the happiest of camper in the world, but, you know, make do with what you got. So you want to put some black RTV on this. And this is, again, just to help prevent corrosion. In a lot of places, like let's say you live in Florida or something, people might say the paint alone is fine. For you, it might be. Up here in the Northeast, when they salt the living daylights out of the roads, I don't like that. So I'm going to have my friend Julie over here. She's going to give me a little bit of forward pressure on the back of this. That way I can make sure I have a perpendicular crush. Because it does take a little bit of muscle to close this, and you don't necessarily have the most leverage either with this tool. Alright, we have a pretty straight crush, so I'm happy with that. So now we go to do the other ones. I've been fighting this all day. People using goddamn lawnmowers and leaf blowers. Like, it's like 5:30 at night, man. Why are you mowing your daggone lawn? It's about to be dark outside. We live in New England. It's past daylight savings time. Come on, bro. I'm trying to film a video here, dude. No respect. And again, make sure these all crush properly, otherwise you're gonna need to remove it. And removing these is a royal pain in the butt, so make sure you crush them properly. Take your time. That's why I don't necessarily suggest using this tool. If I had a riv nut tool, like the little nut that worked properly right now, I'd use that, but I don't. So make do it what you got, but you can take your time more, make sure you have a more flat crush with the tool, but this does work faster with less effort. So if you're good at using it, by all means, use it. It's a great tool. I'm just not good at it. Nuts are in and everything's drilled out, we can go and install our fender. It's super simple. It's just bolts, guys, as long as you didn't mess up the riv nuts. So I totally suggest, as you do put the riv nuts in, mock it up a couple times, get the bolts back in, make sure everything fits. Trust me, you just don't want them to not fit with riv nuts. They're a pain in the butt to work with, but totally doable. So I'm going to get Julia over here to hold the fender up while I put all the bolts in, and we're going to get this thing buttoned up. supports. They're a 10mm bolt, and there's probably like 4 of them. Anything that's a bolt, pull that out. And then I believe there's one Christmas tree clip that will be holding it in there after that, and you can just yank that. So easy day, we're just gonna remove them all. There's a couple in the front, and then you'll notice them as they go along. They're really easy to see. You should be able to find them without help. If you can't find them, probably shouldn't be installing this. An extension is gonna be easier for some of them. Now we can just give it a good old-fashioned yank. Some of the clips are gonna break, there's nothing you can do about it. Come on. Now we're gonna need to harvest our wiring, so we can go ahead and do that now. Just cut yourself off a good little bit of wire. You'll be fine. All right, guys, so once you get your workstation all cleaned up, I have my light rolling. For the GENRIGHT fenders, all of this has to go. Every single one of these tabs. These 2 are the worst to get off. So use your choice of cutting tool or a sledgehammer. I used a sledgehammer. It works. You're about to see that. And then I grinded down some of the weld afterwards. But these ones are really easy. You can just bend them and eventually it'll break off. A little time consuming, but it'll work. So I'm gonna cue a little bit of hyperspeed on that. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I'm gonna play some music and you're not gonna hear it because it's copyrights and shit. And yeah, that's what's gonna happen. So while we're waiting for the paint to dry, guys, we can go ahead and put our grommet in this piece for our blinker. And we can slide our blinker through. Now, it is important to note with this light that they sent us, specifically, white is ground and black is your signal wire for when the blinker is. And on the Jeep, it should be the white wire with the green tracer. So the white wire with the green tracers can go to black, and then the black wire on the Jeeps can go to the white. All right, once you got it all wired up, make sure you plug it in and test it just to be sure. All right, once it's working, we're gonna button this up, make it look all nice and pretty from the factory. We're gonna route the wire and call it a day. All right, so once we have all our rib nuts installed, again, this isn't all of the rib nuts. We have to go back and get more once we have the correct hardware pack, but for now, once we have the rib nuts installed, we have to put the fender on. Put the fender on, the easiest way to do it is gonna be to start with this bottom rib nut here and screw that guy in. And then we can put this plate behind it and the front plate behind it as well. And that's without having like clamps and shit. That's kind of the easiest way I figured out to get this guy going in. So I'm gonna have Julia give me the fender. We're gonna grab some of these screws and we're gonna get it done. Alright guys, so that is all for today's video. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you like this kind of content, stick around. Just put that in the comment section. I think these fenders look absolutely awesome on my friend's Jeep here. I think this came out amazing and 10 out of 10 worth it. Honestly, on a scale of 1 to 10 difficulty-wise, probably give it like a 4 or a 5 to install. Time-wise, if it's your first time using rib nuts, throw that time up to a 10 because it's gonna take, it took me just about all day to install the 4 of them. We took our sweet time, stopped for some food and stuff like that, but it definitely took time to do it. So now that my garage is a considerably more mess than it was when I started today. I'm gonna pick up a little bit, let my friend get out of here, and that's it, guys. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Stay tuned for it.
Yeah, it's that first day of first grade. That cute girl, your third day. That backpack, that snapback you've had since the third grade. The first time you got laid, the worst time you got played. It hurt, but you're